Hey, it's Yukimi. I wanted to talk about being on stage. And I have a lot of artist friends who get super nervous to the point of not even enjoying being on stage. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about my own personal journey and how it's been. I got my first experiences of being on stage in some music competitions that I joined in on as a teenager. I had a few different bands that I was singing in. And I remember being so nervous that my voice and my hands were shaking so much. And my nerves really got in the way of the performance. It also controlled my voice, it had my voice shaking. And I also stood for my first performances that I did. I stood like this far away from the mic. So in my teenage years, I was crazy nervous. I had just a few experiences of being on stage, and it was like a school performance or in these music competitions. But pretty early on, I started singing with a band called Coop, and I was their singer on their tours, and it gave me a lot of exposure. I learned to feel comfortable and not feel so nervous that it was taking over my voice and controlling my voice to the point where I was shaking. So that was a great experience for me and a great way for me to get comfortable. But I had so much more that I wanted to explore within myself. When I was touring with Coop, I was singing their songs and their melodies and their lyrics, and I didn't feel like I could really truly express myself and be myself. So once we started touring with Little Dragon, I was so ready. I was ready to take on the challenge of really expressing myself on stage. I had this deep longing and yearning to feel free, and I was loving so many punk bands that represented that kind of freedom to me. But it took time. And definitely once we had some tours in, I was given this beautiful opportunity to find myself and express myself and take little steps. Because I remember in the beginning when I was singing, especially with Coop, I'd stand completely still. I wouldn't move. I'd just be placed. And I took little steps every show, gave myself little challenges. One day it might be to take the mic off the stand. And if I did that, if I managed to do that, I was happy with myself. The next day, my challenge would be to move around a little bit. And maybe I'd take one step out to the right and one step to the left. So it was really baby steps for me to find myself. It wasn't like an overnight thing. But with Little Dragon, I felt so happy and comfortable in my space with the band, and being on stage was such a joy because we were friends, being our silly selves, but on stage and doing what we loved most of all, which was playing our music and improvising and seeing where that improvisation could take us. With those Little Dragon tours, I really learned to be free. I think there was one show where I was rolling around. In my head, I was like, the person who's the most free on stage can roll around and scream and be completely uninhibited. And it was so satisfying to feel like I could take little steps, but still slowly break free from my shyness. But I noticed from talking to different artists that everyone has their way of playing mind games with themselves to really own the stage. And I remember this one tour we did with Lil Dragon opening for Red Hot Chili Peppers. It was a stadium tour. And Anthony Kiedis came up to us and said, "Play for the people way in the back, not just the people in the front." And that really stuck with me. Those stadium shows were pretty challenging because people were walking in, even if it was maybe 4,000 people there, it was half full. They were there to see Red Hot Chili Peppers. So you really had to be mentally strong and not play for the crowd, but play for yourself. That was one thing that we often would tell ourselves before a show, let's play for ourselves. We had some early shows early on where there were 10 people in the crowd, a really sad promoter being like, oh, we didn't sell any tickets and it just felt miserable. But we stayed strong together as a unit because we were like, we're playing for ourselves. We're just going to have a great time as if we were in the rehearsal space. We might have shitty sound, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're going to enjoy this. Sometimes the hype shows with a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation are hard to enjoy. And sometimes those little tiny places are so vibey, and vice versa. You'd never know what ingredients you need to have a great show. But I definitely have different mind games that I play with. Sometimes I imagine I'm beaming light, and it just makes me feel very warm and present. It makes me feel very aware of my movement, and I found that to be a fun game to play. One thing that people don't know, when you see someone in the crowd yawn and it messes with your head and you might be like, oh my God, they're so bored. But there's just that person who's yawning, and I find myself going to shows sometimes and just standing there looking and really enjoying it, but I might not be like, woo, like giving it everything. And sometimes that's what people do at shows. They go and they're maybe not 100% fans, but maybe their expression, their body language, everything else looks like they're bored. So I find that really putting a lot of attention on playing for myself and enjoying the moment has been helpful. But honestly, I'm still learning to break barriers on stage and to really find ways to evolve. There was this one time we played in Glastonbury. I think it was like maybe 6 years ago. And obviously Glastonbury is a big deal. I didn't know any of the other bands that were playing on our stage. And I got ready, and there's this band across from us, like their trailer was across from us, and these guys were doing so many push-ups, and they were like, obviously had just gotten off a tour bus and were brushing their teeth and whatnot and getting ready for their show, pumping themselves up. I was like, I wonder who these guys are. So I went to the side of stage and watched them, and they were playing before us, and it was Turnstile, hardcore band. I don't know if you guys know. And their energy was, I'd never heard of them before. I had never listened to their music, honestly. It was the definition of energy on stage. And there was like a mosh pit and people were going crazy. I was blown away, and I was just like, oh my God, how are we gonna go up on stage after these guys and deliver? I just felt so self-conscious after that. And obviously, Glastonbury is so big. Everyone who went to that show went out, and then a new crowd came in who was excited to see us. But because I'd seen them first, I was experiencing every song that we had like a ballad. It felt so slow and so low on energy. It really messed with my head, and it really made me see the bigger picture of how when you compare yourself with something, or the circumstances around when you're having a show really can affect you. There are a lot of different elements and stars that need to be aligned to have the perfect experience. But generally, I feel like I have good experiences, even if I have like shitty sound, because if you can get some kind of a connection with the crowd, that's a beautiful thing. And sometimes you don't get it, and I guess you can still have a great show if you play for yourself and you really enjoy it. But like I said, I'm still learning, and I'm still trying to break barriers on stage and playing mind games with myself. But it is a beautiful experience for me these days, most of the time. I'm really enjoying it. And it's fun for me to look back and think about the teenage Yukimi, who was so shy that her voice was shaking so much that she could barely sing her songs because of those nerves. And now to really savor the moment on stage and really enjoy it. Yeah, I think for me, it's really been about exposure and taking little baby steps. And I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to do many tours to get comfortable on stage, because just one show isn't enough sometimes to like really take you where you want to be in your head. So I just want to share this with you guys, because I feel like sometimes it's easy to be hard on yourself and feel like you aren't where you want to be on stage But yes, give it some time, give it a lot of shows, and you'll get there. Bye guys, thanks for listening.